Hello and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics in business and in life and simplify them. And friends, I love these episodes where my little inner geek gets to come out and play. Because the truth is, if I have a guest on and we're talking about productivity, this is where I geek out. My special guest today is Amber De La Garza, and she's the productivity specialist. She's a sought-after coach, trainer, speaker, a writer, the host of the Productivity Straight Talk podcast, and the creator of Stop, the Entrepreneur's Success Solution. We're going to have to ask her about that, what that means. She helps driven entrepreneurs execute actionable solutions to maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most. I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers podcast today, Amber De La Garza. Hey, Amber.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here.
I also love to geek out about this stuff, so everyone's going to be listening in on us geeking out.
It's going to be a good one, I hope. And here is the real deal. We have 80 bazillion things on our to-do list at any given time, especially as women. We are sometimes, it feels like we're carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. You know, some of us that are listening are moms. Some of us are in a relationship and marriage. That's a lot of work. Some of us own our own businesses. It takes a lot of work and effort, it seems. So what I'd like for you to simplify today, if you would be ever so kind, is why is it that we seem to wear the badge of busy as a badge of honor? Like, how do we stop being busy and start being productive? Can you simplify that for us?
Yeah, well, this is my opinion, but I think that we wear the badge of honor of being busy for many reasons, but I think one of them is cultural. Like if you're not busy, then you're lazy. If you're not achieving more and more, and it is cultural because if you go to other countries, like they honor, 2-hour breaks in the middle of the day or long maternity or paternity leave. They honor, vacations, and here in America, the culture is just like edging that out. And so it's almost been the extreme opposite of like wearing it like, I do this, I do this, I do this. And, that affects our mindset around time. It affects our mindset on how we are in relation to other people because everything's a commodity of time because we're always busy. I would be lying if I didn't say at points in my life, I have definitely worn that as a badge of honor. And we almost don't even know what to say, right? Like, oh, so how's life? Oh, I'm so busy.
Right.
Or it's great, I'm busy. Or, business is booming, I'm busy. Like it's always the and to it, right? Mm-hmm. But my question to you and the listeners would be, how does that feel when you say, I'm busy?
Yeah. What is that internal message you're telling yourself over and over and over again? You're programming your brain, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same as saying like, for many of us is I'm overwhelmed, or I heard this terminology recently and I just fell in love with it. And it was, I'm full. My schedule is full. Like full is a good thing. It's overrunning. I'm choosing where I'm, investing my time. And I thought just that tweak of words actually changes your feeling when you say I'm busy or I'm full. But I want to be full of the highest value activities, which is being productive, moving the needle forward. And I think we're going to talk a lot about that today.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love the idea of shifting the word choice, the words that you use to describe who you are. I mean, it's really your identity, right? Both internally to yourself and externally to the world. So when you go to that networking event and somebody says, how's it going, Amber? And you go, oh my God, I'm so busy. You're trying to put out, I would dare say, like a front that says, oh, look at me, I'm doing enough. I'm a legitimate business because I am so busy, right? It's stopping that vicious cycle. What else can we do to stop the vicious cycle, in your opinion?
Making a choice to say no and to be very, very clear with the activities that we're investing in.
Yeah.
I just had dinner last night with 2 other couples and their kids, and both couples had 3 children. And we were, talking, or, spouses, the whole thing. And, they're all in sports. All the kids are in sports. They have after school activities. The parents are doing their thing. They both work full time, and it's this, oh my gosh, like we're having a drink and we're having dinner, but life is so busy. And you know what? They both looked at me and said, but I wouldn't change it for the world. Like, I chose to put all my kids here. I chose to do this hobby. And so I loved that they were literally just flipping that conversation a little bit, because I think a lot of people, don't say no to the things that they want to say no to. It's like yes of everything. So then when they say they're busy, it's not a feel good busy, right? And so I would love to just, you said that your audience is wearing a lot of hats, and I think that that's very, very true. As women, we are, like you said, mothers and spouses and business owners. One of my favorite sayings that literally brought me to tears when I saw it go through the internet was something like, they expect us to work as if we don't have children, and raise children and families as if we don't work. So the question is like, and that's true, we have these high expectations.
Yeah.
And so I would love having the conversation of like defining, well, what does life look like? And we don't have to do it all ourselves.
Yeah. Well, what it sounds like I'm hearing you say is, we also need to do a bit of soul work to redefine the word productivity in the first place, like reclaim that word to be something that is positive and not something that we're chasing and striving and do more, right? So talk to me more about that. Like, how can we begin to redefine the word productivity, like to own it for ourselves in a positive, healthy place?
Yes, I think that the word productivity, as a productivity coach, and I think that I found out that everyone has a different definition. So I'm going to share my definition. And then if you like it, the listener, if you like it, it's my gift to you. But I frame everything I do around this definition. And it's productivity is investing your best time into your best activities. And see, that's a framework that can lay over any goal in our life, both personally and professionally. So when we look at investing our best time, that's our focused, distraction-free, non-interrupted time. Who wants more of that, right?
Yeah.
Like on any given day, we strive to have that focused best time. And then our best activities are the ones that will actually move the needle forward. And I have found that part of this definition is the most tricky, because people like to put everything into a pot that's on their checklist and say, I got down my checklist, or I worked on my checklist all day, so therefore I was productive. But you and I know, because we geek out about this, everything doesn't have the same value.
Right.
And when you look at everything as kind of just one big pot of the same value, that's when you literally hit the bed and you're exhausted. You're like, what did I get done today? You work really, really hard. And there's so many of us that do work really hard and have very little to show for it. And the difference is going to be to invest your best time into your best activities. So now the onus is on us, right? We need to determine what are our best activities.
Yeah.
And Mary, your goals are different than my goals, and each of our listeners are unique, and we want to honor that. So I'm going to share a framework about how we can actually identify our high value activities, which would be the most productive. So we're not talking about this vague language about, okay, I listened to a podcast, I'm more productive, right?
Yeah.
Because I think, other than a very small percentage of us, you, me, a few other people in the world, like we don't wake up and geek out and get excited about productivity. In fact, I would venture to say I don't either. What I get excited about is looking at productivity as a tool that will shortcut me from where I'm at to where I want to go. And so then when I learn that it's a skill set and it's a tool that I can have in my toolbox that's going to allow me to achieve more, I was all about it, right? It's not the pursuit of being productive. It's obtaining a skill set that serves us well, personally and professionally, to then achieve great things. And that's what really gets me excited.
Well, and I think that I'm the same way. I think about it as a muscle that you're training. It's a discipline to hone over time, to start to see the patterns in your own life, to know what environments are you feeling most alive in, and you feel like you're blowing through your list of things that you need to do and you're working at your highest self. And I want to go back to that because you had mentioned this a little bit earlier on in the episode about high value activities. Define that first and tell me, what is that? What does that mean?
Yeah. So your high value activities are the ones that will actually propel you towards your goal. And so the way that I carve out and help people define their high value activities is buckets. And so I'm going to share that with you. And while the definition of productivity can lay over weight loss, fitness, relationship goals, for right now, we're going to be talking about business.
Sure.
So in business, of all the things we do, and as, entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and freelancers, we wear a lot of hats, like no doubt. And I don't know that many of us were told before we put the hat on, entrepreneur, solopreneur, creative, that, oh, by the way, you're the janitor, you're the marketer, you're the servicing the client, you're doing the email. Like those are the things that, we get into our days and our weeks and we're grinding it out. But then we get frustrated when we have very little to show for it. And so I'm going to share 4 buckets. So if you really want to know what your high value activities are in a business, they will be in one of these 4 buckets because I believe that every business has one goal. Now, there'll be many goals that help that one goal, but every business has one goal, and that is revenue. Doors will shut. You will not be able to serve people, make an impact. You won't be able to use that money to help your family, help your community, however you want to use that money. If you're in business, even nonprofits, their goal is revenue to make an impact.
Right.
So when we start getting into business, you see how it can be so diluted down. It's like, oh, this is a goal, this is a goal, this is a goal. And then everything seems overwhelming. So if we're all looking at, okay, so what activities will move the needle forward to impact revenue? Then we're going to start in bucket number 1. Bucket number 1 is marketing and visibility. So if you're looking to find your high value activities, you will find it in bucket number 1. What's marketing and visibility? Mary, I'm doing marketing and visibility right now, right?
Right.
You have to let the world know what you do and how you can help them and what value you bring. But if you think that you're just going to do your work and grow your business by doing the thing, providing the service, being the expert in the thing, you're going to run out of business soon because not enough people know you. And I want you to think of this as buckets with money in them. And you're going to fill that bucket up until it's overflowing. So whatever that looks like. So may I ask, what do you do for marketing and visibility? The obvious, right?
Well,
podcasting.
Yeah, right. Podcasting on my own and on others. We run social media marketing campaigns. We do a bit of PR here and there to very targeted places where we think our listeners and our future clients will be reading, listening, watching. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we do the marketing visibility, it can't be a one and done. It can't even be like a once in a month thing. It has to be something that you're investing in continually.
Yeah.
And until you've built your team, you, the business owner, are responsible for all 4 buckets. So you have to have time in your schedule on a very regular basis to do marketing and visibility on a proactive basis.
Yes.
Some of the other things that can happen in marketing visibility are networking, going to the right events, conferences, building relationships, like you said, the ads, guesting on someone's podcast, even speaking for free in your community. That's how I started my speaking career. I spoke at every single luncheon there was in my city, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the marketing and visibility. But you want to pick a couple and just do them over and over, right? I didn't get on the speaking circuit by doing one every few months. Like I chose speaking, I pitched, I made relationships. And so I continually doubled down on a strategy. It doesn't need to be all the strategies. If you find that one strategy is not working, pick another one to do consistently. So the second bucket is sales. Right? Like sales is something that I wish somebody told me. And right now, let's just say I have my own sales coach because as an entrepreneur, this is a skill set that serves us really, really well. 7 years ago, when I first started out in business, I was like, oh, we're going to have coffee. And if they want to work with me, they're just going to let me know. No.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work that way.
Sometimes it does, but most times it doesn't.
Oh my gosh, right? I mean, honestly, like you have to make the ask and not once, but several times in a way that provides value.
Yes.
And this is a skill set that was learned. But if I were to look at your schedule as a business owner, I need to see sales activities. So discovery calls, right? Where you're specifically talking to your ideal client and to asking them for their business.
Yeah.
Going to a coffee meeting and you're talking about your business. You're making a pitch. You're doing a proposal. Those are considered sales activities, and those are very high value activities. And as a smaller business, right, that the onus is on us 100% to do sales.
Yeah, and that's true. And I also know in my own experience of running my own business, but also just previous episodes that we've done with other sales coaches and experts, that you don't have to necessarily be an extrovert to be a great salesperson, so don't buy into that negative belief. Like, I think anybody, it doesn't matter if you're creative, non-creative, or anywhere in between, you can be an excellent salesperson if you are able to hone the skills just with a bit of repetition.
Mary, I couldn't agree more. And let me tell you why. I'm an extrovert and I have a sales coach. So just because I'm an extrovert did not make me this easy peasy sales, right? It's something you have to get comfortable with. You have to understand. One of my biggest takeaways is the way that I buy is not the way that other people buy. I'm a fact finder. So I would fact people right out of the buying process because I would want to tell them everything, right? That's just one thing that I could tell you I've learned very, very recently. And so it's a skill set. But if I looked at your schedule and we were looking at, are you being your most productive self? As we get busy, can you see how not going to that networking event, not going to that conference, not pitching yourself to speak on a podcast, or then it's I don't have time for coffee meetings. I'm grinding it out. I'm doing the thing. You're not purposeful and proactive with getting these items on your calendar because you're grinding it out over here in the other bucket.
Yeah. Well, and I also think that we're talking about kind of hacking your calendar a bit. Leave those time blocks in your calendar for that specific task. And what I think also happens is we get so caught up into putting out fires or, dealing with those lower value activities and if I just get these 5 things done, then I can focus on pitching that person or I'll just do that later, and the later always gets pushed and pushed and pushed. But if you actually proactively set a block in your time of every Tuesday for 2 hours, I'm going to go and pitch podcasts to be on, or I'm going to work on pitch proposals and, practice my craft, then you're developing that skill, right?
Yeah. One of the issues with that is that if we don't do the proactive pitching, nobody knows.
Right.
But if you're not checking your email and delivering the thing and doing this, people know. So we feel like we have to prioritize that.
Right.
But nobody's going to be jumping in your inbox and saying, hey, girl, I got your back. Go do the thing. That's the most important thing. You have to do that for yourself. You have to champion for yourself and know that every decision you're making with your time is an investment. And you're either working yourself towards the business you dreamed of and you desire and the lifestyle, or you're going to continually feel overwhelmed and frustrated. Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's actually why I even got into business. Is I was a coach in real estate teaching business systems that were solid. And my clients kept coming to me saying, I'm overwhelmed and I'm out of time. And these were successful people that were kind of successful in spite of themselves. Nothing was proactive. And I thought, well, I bet that if they learn the skill set of managing themselves and their time and their priorities, they would be better equipped to take advantage of all the things that are around them and take action on it. And so these people were making an impact. I was working with the top 10% in my network, in my area, right? And they were being so overwhelmed. They weren't living the life that they aspired when they started getting in business.
Right.
And so for me, this was hey, if we can learn this as a skill set, time management, productivity, you light that fire, you're going to have a bigger impact in the world. You're going to serve your family. I love entrepreneurship so much that I felt this skill set will be the skill set that helps so many people not feel the dark side of entrepreneurship. I don't know if we talk about that enough. If we have friends that aren't business owners, they think we live the life, right? We make our own schedules. We all make a ton of money. Life is so good. But behind that wall is this conversation of entrepreneurship that is overwhelming and it's stressed out. The hours aren't 9 to 5. And so how can we create our own reality that's different than the norm?
Well, and I think for me, what I've learned in 16 years of doing this is you have to figure out a way to diffuse the fear. And that's really what it comes down to. I think when I have been super busy, putting busy as a badge of honor on my little Girl Scout sash here, is I'm thinking, if I just did more. If I just did more, that more means more cash coming in the door. And that's not always the case. And so it's fear that's driving that hustle and grind mentality.
Yes.
That, that's where people tend to burn out. I mean, what is it? The statistic is the first 5 years of a small business in the U.S., 90% of them go away. 90%.
Yes.
So 9 out of 10 people at a networking event of brand new entrepreneurs disappear in the first 5 years because it's a lot. The fear, the pressure, it takes a toll on you mentally, physically, spiritually. It takes a toll on your relationship, all the things. And so what I think I'm hearing you say, Amber, is it's almost like building the muscle of discernment as well, of understanding what tasks are really pushing the needle forward. As you say, the first bucket with the marketing and visibility, doing the right things, not just the mindless desk scroll on Instagram and thinking that you're being really, productive, but you're not. And then dipping into overflowing into sales and making sure you're creating times for discovery calls, you're reaching out and doing the really hard stuff that nobody wants to do, like, I don't know, cold call PR firms, because that's where your target audience is. Putting those pitches together, stepping out and out of your comfort zone. Yeah. So then those are the first 2 buckets. So tell us, what's the third one?
So when you're doing those on a very regular basis and they're overflowing, then you get to servicing your clients. And that's the third bucket. Like, I want to just say that again, because I feel like when we don't know any better, it's like, if I just service my clients, life would be good.
Right.
Or you do really good at marketing, really good at sales, and then now you're servicing all the clients and you disregard. Now it's not on your schedule to go to the marketing because you're so busy doing servicing the clients, right? We want to keep all these 3 buckets going on a continual basis, because if you do not, this is where we get income up, income down, income up, income down, which means you did really good in buckets 1 and 2. You're servicing the clients, you got your head down, you're doing it, you're doing the work, and then you're done and you're like, oh, my pipeline is not there. And so you're hustling to do it all over again. So the key here is a little bit across all the buckets until you work a little bit, you have a little bit more that you're able to do. So right now, if you aren't working 40 hours, maybe this is a side gig, or maybe you have multiple businesses, or you have kids at home, then you just do a little bit in all the buckets. And then you go a little bit more in each of these buckets, but don't do head down in one bucket only.
And I think that's a really valuable visual, because I can imagine there's quite a few people that go, well, hang on, don't we service the client first and then do all those other things when there's time left over? And that's a mistake. I mean, yes, cash flow kills a lot of businesses, you guys. And I know that there's a lot of you that are listening out there right now that are going, oh, this whole trying to find my next lead and where's the next job coming from? It's a whole lot of mental stress and anguish, that you're going through. And we feel you. So I love this idea of, keeping a bit going on in each of the buckets all simultaneously, as again, shifting slightly in your brain how you look at things on your plate.
Yeah. And then bucket number 4, Mary, remember I said, one way to avoid the overwhelm and the burnout and the badge of honor is not to feel like we have to do it all ourselves. Okay. This is one of the 4 pillars that I teach about productivity, and it's about people. So bucket number 4 is that you are in your leadership bucket. And this is really powerful, because sometimes I think we discredit the time we're putting and investing in other people, hiring people, having our one-on-one meetings, doing these things. But as a leader, as your business is growing, that is your highest value activity.
Totally.
Because every time they're working, you're multiplying the input into your business, right? And what I love about this being the fourth bucket is, once you get to a place where you can build a team, small, maybe it's your first part-time person. Like my very first hire was not in my business. It was a house cleaner to get back 20 hours a month, not cleaning my house. But my first hire in my business was an assistant 10 hours a week.
Yep.
Right. And so I had to invest in her and we create systems and I train her. Well, that is valuable time that I don't have to invest in these other three buckets. So it is a high value activity. Now, what I love is when you get to a certain place, you're like, well, where should I hire first? Like, where should I be leading my people? And my advice is your first bucket to be outsourcing is actually the fifth bucket we didn't talk about, which is the other bucket. This is actually everything that doesn't fall in marketing, visibility, sales, servicing your client is the other bucket, all the busy stuff, the administrative stuff, the bookkeeping, the website updating, all of the stuff that can literally bog down our hours. I believe that we should start outsourcing the other bucket first. Because as a small business owner, there is no one that can sell you better than yourself. Even if you don't have the best skill set yet, you're not going to get any better until you've worked out your voice and worked out, what are your clients or customers' pain points. So hire first in your other bucket.
Oh, I mean, drop the mic there because I am 100% in agreement of this. This is what I call low yielding task. It's the machine work. It's the machine work that happens behind the magic curtain that keeps everything running and churning along. So it's your webmaster. It is somebody who's documenting your training manual and, scheduling your calendar and just keeping the machine going. Actually, we developed a virtual assistant agency through the Simplifiers last year because we just identified that this is a huge need for people. So people can actually hire a Simplifier now from our VA team to help with exactly those things. And that's it. Because we realize as well, it's like, wow, a lot of our clients are high achieving go-getters and they just don't have enough hours in the day to do all of the things that they want. So what if you could delegate that off to people who are highly skilled, can do it probably 5, if not 10 times faster than you can, and, just get it off your plate with somebody you know and trust. So yes, 100%.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I agree. And Mary, you said the exact words, 5 to 10 times faster. Here's the deal. As entrepreneurs, we are creatives, we're visionaries, we're dreamers, we want to talk to people, maybe not all of us, but maybe you want to talk to people about how you can make an impact, right?
Yeah.
The details of the administrative literally is not your zone of genius generally. And if it is, it shouldn't be because you can literally get yourself stuck in that mud. I remember outsourcing some things that I thought I'm pretty good at. And then I outsourced it and I was like, why was I ever touching that?
Right. Somebody does it so much faster.
So much better. So clear. That was not what I should be doing. Right. Yeah. And so I love that you have that service because I think that a lot of business owners feel like they have to do it all. And there was a time in my life that I didn't ask for help because I was a girl. You want to talk about wearing badges? Right next to the badge of honor was the I can do it all myself badge.
Right? I'm faster, which is not true. It's fake.
I'm better. I'm faster. I know it. But what was really true was I was a control freak. I wasn't really good at communicating what I wanted. Yeah. These are all skill sets that in the leadership bucket, I had to get really good at because I had hit a level. I was efficient. I was organized. I had my stuff, but I hit that plateau that no more was my business going to grow. It wasn't an accident. My business made the same amount of money 2 years in a row. When that happened, I was like, whoa, we're hiring because I have obviously hit my plateau to be able to do with the resources I have.
Yeah.
And making a good hire, just as a throwback to you, 2 things have ever made my business jump leaps. A good hire and hiring a coach.
Yep.
Those 2 have been the most pivotal, that's not even a word, most pivotal decisions in my business that have had the biggest impact, that have made the biggest growth jumps. And so I love that you offer that service. So that's the fourth bucket is leadership. And we're not, again, just born with natural leadership skills. I've learned it. It's something you invest in and you get better at. But if I see a one-on-one meeting with somebody, if I see that you're going to have a delegation, team meeting, that's a high value activity.
Yes.
So,
and hopefully when you do that leadership skills and training to your team, you've hired some great people and you're starting to cultivate their skills and build on that. You're hopefully training them once and then checking in to help them refine and head the right direction. So either they get the brand voice right or they understand the why behind the systems and processes you put in place. But this is truly how you grow and scale your business. And I also want to encourage you guys that are out there that you're like, well, I just kind of want to be a one-man band. Like, I don't want a massively big, huge company. Like, the technology has come a long way, especially in the last few years for small business owners like us, where I'm not saying that you need to hire 5, 6, 10 full-time employees. I mean, that maybe actually was how businesses ran 10 years ago. I mean, that's certainly how our business ran 10 years ago as well. But nowadays with virtual assistants or other contractors, you may have a person on your team who just does 5 hours a month and, expands to do all the things that you need that one super specific niche person and super experienced person, maybe at a higher hourly rate, but do so much more for you. So keep that in mind. It's flipping that, oh, but what if? I don't have money for that, Mary. That's crazy talk, it's actually possible.
Yeah. So there's two things I would recommend here. One is look at the thing that you do not like doing. Like, what are you pushing off? What are you, know that needs to get done, but there's always something more important, but that if it got done, it would benefit your business. Bookkeeping, right? Like, if we hate bookkeeping and we have some more mental block or it's the details or the whatever, like, you can hire somebody at a higher rate. Totally. It's going to take them 5 hours. Let's just say we're throwing numbers out, 5 hours, but it'll take you 10 plus the anxiety, the stress, the thinking about it, the mental capacity of like, oh, I know I got to do that. I'm not going to do it. Something else is important. Like, we got into business because we wanted to create a life that we love. And if bookkeeping is not in that dream, then hire it out.
Yeah.
And if graphic design is not the thing, then hire it out.
That's true. And, I hear you. If you're just starting out with your business, you're like, I have no capital, no cash to hire anybody else. I get it. In the beginning, you do all the things yourself. And this is where, coming back to what Amber's talking about of the 4 buckets, making sure that you're focusing the majority of your time on those high value activities, so that you can generate that revenue so that when you are able to start to outsource, even just a little bit, 5 hours a month to somebody, you're going to notice your business is going to change significantly over time. So I want to change gears a little bit. And I've heard you say on your podcast something that I'm just curious what you mean by this. So you say that you believe you have to go slow to go fast with productivity. What does that mean to you?
Oh, yes, that's a great question. All right. So there's no crash dieting going on here, not in my world. Okay. So I feel like it's like the first of the year or it's the first of the month and there's a clean slate and it's the new me and it's the new routines and I'm going to do this and I'm going to drink water and I'm going to be this great leader and I'm going to like you name it. Right. And sometimes people listen to my podcast and they get really inspired to go, jump off the cliff or crash diet. And I'm always saying like, no, to get the results long-term, because that's all I'm talking about. I do not care about short-term wins. I want the long-term wins. Is you have to go slow to go fast. You're building a solid foundation. You're changing your mindset. You're changing your habits, your behaviors. Like, that's no small thing, but it's worth it. So go slow to build that momentum, get your wins, build on top of that, and you will one day look up and be like, oh my gosh, I'm going so fast. This is amazing because you've built a solid foundation to make the real change in your life that you want. That's go slow to go fast, because I think that, here's another thing that I say a lot. When we're talking about being productive and we have these 4 buckets, I think this is really worthwhile to say. No one is productive all day, every day. Nobody should think that they're productive all day, every day. If you think that you're to be productive all day, every day, then that means everything on your to-do list is productive work. And we've just determined that's not true.
Right.
So if you had 90 minutes, 5 days a week, 2 hours, 5 days a week, you were consistent and you didn't negotiate with yourself and you weren't distracted and it was your highest value activities, I guarantee the small compounded effort day after day will have the biggest impact.
Yeah.
And when you relieve yourself from the pressure of having to be productive all day, every day, it allows you to have space to deal with the unexpected and to handle the other bucket before there's fires and urgencies. But to know that if you have marketing and visibility, that if you have sales conversations, you never tell yourself again, I don't have the time.
Because those things drive revenue.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So go slow to go fast. Don't think that you need to be productive all day, every day, and then build upon your wins.
So you talk about time maximizers on your website. Can you share a couple of those that could help us improve our productivity?
Yes. Okay. So I actually alluded to one of them early on, so I'll go deeper just so we full circle it. So saying no. There's two ways we can say no. One is, I think the most popular is like, oh, somebody asked me something and I say no because it's not really like yes, right? Guess what? There's a second way, and this is really, really powerful. As your seasons change in your business and your life, as your goals change or you get clearer about what matters most, it is okay to say no to something you said yes to already. It is okay to relook at your schedule and be like, what are the reoccurring meetings? What are the things I'm volunteering for? What are the things that I've said yes to that no longer serve me in the way, or maybe I'm not able to make the impact. Maybe you said yes, and now you feel like you have 1 foot in, 1 foot out because you're wearing too many hats.
Right.
And you'd rather show up as your whole self to the things you say yes to and not half doing it. If you need permission, some people do, like, I'm giving you permission to evaluate and go back and say no, and it is okay.
Yeah. And, I think it's okay to step off the big hamster wheel every quarter and do a bit of this kind of reassessing. Am I still aligned with that? Am I still on the track to achieve my big quarterly goals? I mean, yeah, and give yourself permission there, because I think I'm going to stereotype here, but I think that we as women, we say yes to something, we go, oh, well, I kind of committed myself for the next 2-3 years or whatever it is, right? Whether it's a board position for an association in your industry, or I don't know, something having to do with your kids and PTA, or a commitment that you've made to a client, but you haven't actually charged them and billed them for it. Like really coming back to the drawing board and going, well, hang on, is this still aligned? Is this still driving me, the brand, the company, my mental health, everything in the right direction? Gosh. Or not?
The few examples you gave, like, I have stories for all of that. I was on association. The next year was supposed to be presidency. I had to make a huge decision. It was gut-wrenching. Yeah. I called every single board member and had a one-on-one conversation to tell them that I could no longer serve, and here were my reasons. And it was one of the hardest things that I remember doing. And I got unanimous support. And they said variations of, good for you for choosing X, Y, and Z. Like, wherever I was at, it was family. I was realigning some stuff in my business. I'm telling that story briefly, but I want you to know, saying no is not easy, but the rewards are so worth it. And check the stories you have in your head, because I even fell prey to it. Like, I almost backed out because I was afraid of what people would think, what they would say, what friendships would be damaged. And guess what? People are rooting for you. Like, they want to support you, and you could be the leader that inspires them to go take that scary action of really saying yes to the things that matter and no to the things that no longer are supporting you and your goals. And that's what I learned with that experience in my life when I did it.
And does this tie into your program, STOP, the Entrepreneur Success Solution? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. So STOP is based on 4 pillars of productivity. So STOP is STOP, so how to leverage yourself, which is mindset and health and life by design. And T is for time, how to leverage your time, which is, usually where people are only one pillar of productivity, which is about time management.
Yeah.
O is for organization. So that would be your spatial organization, digital organization, business systems. And then P is people.
Got it.
And we talked a little bit about that today, but it's about who supports you personally and in your home, in your personal life, who supports you in your business, and who are your go-to like board of directors. Like, who do you go to when you have a challenge in your business or something that you're dealing with? And so the program is a 6-month coaching and training program that goes through all of these pillars, all based on goals and strategies, to help you execute on those goals and strategies by implementing the 4 pillars of productivity.
I love it. So we'll put a link in the show notes for your website, theproductivityspecialist.com, so you guys can check this out. And then also Amber is providing a little freebie for you guys, which her high value activity finder. So helps you really truly identify the things that are on your to-do list now. Are they high value or are they not? So make sure to click the link in the show notes for that, but that you can also find at theproductivityspecialist.com/the Simplifiers. And again, just click in the show notes. You'll be able to find it there. So Amber, I have a few questions for you that I like to ask everybody that comes on. And by the way, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. I think that these things, we know these things inherently, like intuitively deep down inside. We know this is true. But we tend to be like goldfish and we just forget, right? We just kind of putter over here in our little goldfish bowl and we're like, oh, hello, what are you? Like we just need that gentle nudge back and go, oh yeah. Well, if we don't drive revenue, we don't have a business. Oh yeah, we need to focus on high value activities. Oh yeah. So thank you for being gentle and also for just, bringing us another framework to consider while we're looking at productivity. I love this bucket concept entirely.
Thank you. Thank you for having me share it.
Of course. So, Amber, tell us what's one book or blog that you're reading these days that's either inspiring you or maybe even poking holes and challenging your belief system a bit?
As I've been growing, the saying is new level, new devil. So all about mindset. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yep, I got that. Oh, we're doing something else. Like something else is creeping in. So the book actually was recommended by my husband, which is really cool because he finished it. And so now we get to talk about it as I go through it. It's called Can't Hurt Me, Master Your Mind and Defy the Odds by David Goggins. And, I just started, I'm a few chapters in. I had heard a bit about it and my husband summarized it. So I'm really excited to get through the whole thing.
I love it. Well, we'll put a link in the show notes for everybody on that book as well. I've not read that one, so that's a great one.
Yeah.
Tell us who's one person either in your network or maybe even somebody you've interviewed recently on your podcast that you just feel is up to brilliant things. Doesn't have to be related to today's topic, but just doing amazing things that we should shine a spotlight on them and maybe even potentially have them on the Simplifiers podcast in the future. Who would you recommend?
I would recommend my good friend, Courtney Townley. And I'm not just recommending her because she's my good friend. She's my good friend because she's amazing. Yeah. And she has a podcast called Grace and Grit. And it's for women to conquer their health, but not just in the gym. It's like mental, spiritual, physical. And she's just having new conversations around what it really takes as go-getters, women, about our relationship with ourselves and our bodies. And so it's Grace and Grit podcast.
I love it. It's truly fascinating to me. More and more I have conversations about productivity, time management. I mean, it makes me think of a recent episode we did with Kate Northrup. We're talking about Do Less is her book of understanding true wisdom in our women's bodies and our menstrual cycles. It's like starts to blow my mind. You guys have to listen to that episode if you have not yet, because I think it's all interconnected. How our body, our physical health, our mental health, our spiritual health, all of these things are intertwined in that kind of mind, body, spirit embodiment. That is very powerful once we all start to kind of link them together and realize it's all interconnected.
It is. I mean, even with productivity, right? Like we're generally out of energy before we're out of time.
Yeah.
And so our health as the women that own and run our businesses and our energy levels is of the utmost importance. And I always get so much value from her and insights.
That's great. So Amber, tell us, I believe gratitude and simplicity go hand in hand. Tell me, what's one thing you're grateful for right now in your life?
Oh my goodness, so much. I actually use a grateful list to keep things on the right mindset, right?
Yeah.
You know what? The first thing that came to mind when you asked is right now my son. He just turned 9 years old, and this whole week has been about a celebration of him, and I have just been in just amazement. First of all, I'm halfway done raising him, I feel like, and I learn from him every day, and I'm just grateful for that, to see the world through a child's eyes and to experience things and see things as simple. Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is perfect for you. Do kids not see the life so simple, and they simplify things for us adults that make things complicated? I'm grateful for him.
Oh yeah, we as adults, we know how to muck things up royally and make them very complex.
Totally.
So I do.
The things he says, you're like, yeah. Yep, it's that simple.
It is. It actually is. I love it. And I think you recently interviewed him on your podcast as well. And I just loved that episode. I think there's those moments of that where you're just like, you know what? You are a smart cookie, aren't you?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I just love that you listened to that. Yes, he's been on the show twice. And I hold him to the same standards of bringing quality content. And sometimes you have to hear a message from the most unexpected places. And he does. He simplifies it, and he's taught us some amazing stuff.
I love it. I love it. So Amber, where can we find you online? Where do you hang out the most, if any place on social media?
Oh, I've been loving Instagram stories, to be specific. Yeah. Great. I'm over at Instagram at Amber_De La Garza.
Perfect. We'll put the links for that, as well as your Facebook page and your Facebook group, in the show notes as well. Just go to thesimplifierspodcast.com to find that. So Amber, my last question for you today is this. And again, I just want to say thank you and acknowledge you. I think the work you're doing is brilliant. It's simplifying it down. It's helping people really discern what to focus on when, in order to make the biggest impact in their business. So I just want to encourage you to keep going. You're on the right path.
Thank you. I have to tell your audience, though, like, I heard your intro one, and I remember reaching out. I know you don't remember that. And I wanted to cheer you on because I heard that, and I was like, oh, she's going to be an amazing podcaster. And that was way when you first started. And I love encouraging other podcasters and entrepreneurs and, that are doing great stuff. And when I heard that, I was just like, ooh, this girl, she's going to be amazing.
Aw, thanks, Amber. High five to you.
Yeah.
So my last question for you is this. Someone somewhere is listening to this episode right now, and she gets it on a cellular level. She understands that she needs to stop focusing on 80 bazillion things. She needs to stop wearing busy as a badge of honor. She needs to stop all that nonsense. But she has no idea where to begin. She is completely and utterly overwhelmed. What is one thing that you could whisper into her ear right now just to encourage her in this moment?
If it's an encouraging word and not strategy, it's like, you deserve this. You can do this. Like, we actually do have the power to create our reality, which is our time and where we invest our time. And sometimes we get in our heads and negotiate ourselves out of the things that we know serve us well, whether that's going to the gym or sitting down and making a sales call. And you deserve it. You deserve to rock the world with whatever you're bringing to the world. And I am so passionate about this.
And you can do it.
I have tears in my eyes. I'm just so passionate about every business owner standing for how they are going to serve the world and not negotiating themselves out of doing that.
Girl, you got this. Just do it. Just do it. Amber, Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.